Hello War of the Visions fans, I'm Jackie Fox, and in this episode we're going to be talking about the best teams for Jeume the Spring Celestial in the One Wing Sephiroth era, based on 5 data points from the JP meta, 5 different days and thousands of different teams combined. We're going to be seeing who is the very best. And in my previous video I looked at Ashenmont, and there weren't necessarily as many people using him. There also weren't as many viable units in his element to play with him. And for those reasons, there was a little less data to work with. There's a bit more data to work with here for water, so the chart's going to be a little bit bigger. We're going to be looking at the top 12 teams, or maybe top 13 in this case. And much like the Ashenmont teams, you're going to notice a pattern here. And with my highlighted teams, these are the teams that do not use Summer Glacella. By far the most used partner for, well, actually, maybe not the most used partner. I think maybe some of the other Greatsword units are more used because they're in the more used teams. But in terms of the unit that shows up on the most of these teams, it's Summer Glacella by a mile. So this, and also the popularity of these teams, lines up a lot better with the amount that they're used. Their popularity lines up really well with how well they do, for the most part. Once again, I want to look at the supergroup team, Ashenmont, Jeume, and Sephiroth, and see how it compares to anything else you could build for this element. And in this one especially, there's a lot of competition. You can see Ashenmont, Jeume, and Sephiroth do pretty well, averaging 4.54 stars on offense and 1.78 defense over this data, which, unless I did something wrong, should be basically the same numbers that it did in the Ashenmont video. This being said though, while it did a lot better in that video, it couldn't even make the top 10 as far as water went, because there's a lot more water competition and a lot more teams that are doing really well on water. And surprise, surprise, we're going to see Kadaj on this list pretty damn high. So the number one most impressive team with 5.1 stars on offense, average, and 2.04 defense. This is the second most used team. It is the second best performing on offense, and it is the second best performing on defense. This is Astrius, Jeume, and Cloud. So we know that Cloud is going to be on the strongest of the Greatsword teams. Jeume and Cloud are a great combination together. They are generally the most powerful combination of Greatsword units. And there's been a question about who is better, Astrius or A2 in that third slot. And at least from this data, edging them out by a little bit, Astrius is the better unit, and this is probably because there's more things to counter within water, which is what he counters as a lightning elemental unit, than there is to counter within wind, which is what A2 would counter as an ice elemental unit. Moving on to second place though, our first Summer Glacella team. This is Summer Glacella, Jeume, and Kadaj. This team did surprisingly well. This is actually the number one defense team. It didn't quite rank for offense, and good God, the numbers were close. It came very close to ranking for offense, but this is the number one defense team with 2.08 defense. Yes, averaging over 2 defense a day. But that's not the only team that's going to be doing that. Also, it gets 4.92 stars per day. Slightly better on offense, though, we have A2, Jeume, and Cloud. This is our other best unit Greatsword team. This is the most used team for this unit by a pretty wide margin over the Astrius variant. It's also the number 4 offensive team and the third most powerful defensive team, with 4.96 stars on average on offense and 2.02 defense. So still averaging above 2 defense up here for the top 3 teams. All very impressive. In fourth place, we have Summer Glacella, Jeume, and One Wing Sephiroth. So this is actually a really powerful offense team. Number 3 on offense, number 5 on defense, averaging at just over 5 stars and just under 2 defense per battle. Coming in 5th place, this unit may surprise people. The things that aren't going to surprise people, some are Glacella and Jeume, but the 3rd unit is Veritas of the Waters, and she had some really impressive showings in the data. 4.92 stars on average on offense, and just barely under averaging 2 stars on defense. This is quite a powerhouse on defense, as that 4th place finish suggests, but also still quite good on offense. 5th place on offense. You don't see many teams that do both that well, but we've seen several that have here, which just means that water as an element seems to be really dominant right now, and I don't think Sephiroth has necessarily changed that so much. Like, he's definitely messing with sustain teams. This is why units like Kadaj actually are coming up as like our 2nd place teams. But at the same time, it's not really stopping them because they do have that elemental advantage, especially with Sephiroth being best on fire teams. They can really mess with that. The number 6 team, this is the 4th most used team in my estimation. Also the number 1 team for offense, 5.12 stars per day, just barely edging out Astrius, Jeume, and Cloud for that top offensive rating. This is going to be Summer Glacella, Jeume, and Elda. Also, this team gets 1.88 defense, so it's very good on defense as well, but just barely under those top rankings. 7th place, we have Summer Glacella, Jeume, and A2. 4.84 stars on average and 1.92 defense. And as you're noticing here, like, all of these teams are doing really well. The difference between 7th place for this and 1st place is not that big. And honestly, again, a big part of this is because most of these teams are 2 out of 3 of the same units. But moving on to a non-Summer Glacella team, although a team that's only 1 unit off of the previous team, we're really just swapping in Strategist Uldoa for Summer Glacella and making this a more ice team. We have A2, Jeume, and Strategist Uldoa in 8th place. This team is getting 4.82 stars on offense on average and 1.9 defense, and this is literally like 200ths in either category less than the other team. So Uldoa doesn't really bring this team down very much, but you can see that Summer Glacella is still probably preferred here, even when Uldoa has a synergy with another unit on the team like A2. In 9th place, we have Astrius, A2, and Jeume. This is the previous Greatsword team. This is the one that was the best Greatsword team by far before Cloud into the meta. Now that we have Cloud, this team is breaking off into either the 1st or the 3rd as it is adding Cloud. But if you don't add Cloud at all, you're still going to be in 9th place in terms of all the water teams possible. And this team is getting 4.84 on offense, which is slightly better than the previous team. However, it's doing a bit less on defense with only 1.82 average defense. Still, like I'm saying, not huge differences between these numbers. All of these teams are pretty great. There's just a lot of different ways you could go to be slightly better than the supergroup team. Another team, we're going back into the Summer Glacella teams now. Summer Glacella, Jeume, and Ferris. This one's averaging 4.7 stars on offense, doing a little bit better than the previous entry on defense with 1.86 defense. In 11th place, we have Summer Glacella, Jeume, and Cloud. This team is getting 4.56 stars on offense and 1.88 defense. And then finally here in 12th place, well, not quite, we have a 13th place, Ashenmont, Jeume, and Sephiroth. 4.54 stars on offense, 1.78 on defense. This team isn't quite doing quite as well on defense, but is the 3rd most used team for Summer Glacella. I'm sorry, it feels like that sometimes. For Jeume, the Spring Celestial. And then finally, the 5th most used team is Summer Glacella, Jeume, Ashenmont. This is 4.36 stars on offense, so doing a little bit worse than most of the other teams on offense considerably, but actually doing alright on defense. I guess it's dealing with some of the Lightning teams are trying to take this team down at 1.84 defense on average. This team actually does pretty well on defense, but again, not quite as good as the rest of them on offense. So, thank you for watching. My laptop battery is dying, so I'll try to make this quick. Thank you if you like and subscribe. Check the link in the description for more Jackie Fox and ways to support the channel. And with all that being said, I'll see you in the next one.